Hello everyone, welcome back. So, during the time that Mavuika was being hyped up and everyone was getting ready for the Pyro Archon, I believe the Arlecchino mains were kind of fretting and bracing for impact because they were worried that Arlecchino was going to get powercrept. And that was due to seemingly the very powerful nature of course, the Pyro Archon. Now, this video isn't going to be looking at that specifically. Instead, that will be, of course, the Arlecchino rerun video when I get around to it. Instead of fretting over whether Father is made redundant faster than a Honkai Star Rail character, today I offer a team where you can play both together. Because why not? And it actually works. And you don't even need that much Hydro app. But first, don't forget to subscribe. Did you know that 91% of y'all haven't subscribed yet, so maybe you should do that. This is of course going to be the second video in a series of Mavuika videos looking at various teams with the Pyro Archon that I've been enjoying, so hitting that bell icon should mean that you're notified of the latest and greatest videos. Now, without further ado, let's get into it.
Let the mountain's veins boil! Busted! Game's up. Time's over. Light up the blazing sun! Ready? Bring it! Quietly now.
So what we're working with today is a Double Pyro Vape team. Now you may be thinking, oh crap, it's Double Pyro and both Pyro characters are constantly doing a lot of Pyro damage. Surely that means we're going to need a lot of Hydro app, be it Double Hydro or at the very least Xingqiu. But it turns out that Yelan is enough. That's what makes this team really, really amazing. Oh, and if TGS is watching, hello. Number one, hello. Secondly, you don't need C2 Yelan to make this work. C0 Yelan is actually enough. Okay, now this is critical because it means that we can use the more offensive variant between Xingqiu and Yelan, but also we have a slot available for someone like Yelan. That's right, which means this is a team where if anything, Arlecchino is actually getting omega boosted thanks to the active character buffs from both Mavuika and Yelan's ult passives as well as Yelan's abilities. You could potentially also use Citlali in this team instead of Yelan because Citlali will more or less do what Yelan does except potentially a little bit weaker. I don't have Citlali, so I can't really help you in that regard. Speaking of those old passives, they're actually working in reverse order to each other. And what I mean is that we have Yelan's buff that starts small and ends up big at 50%, whereas we have Mavuika's buff that starts off big and ends up decaying to 0, which actually means that the experience of using them together on Arlecchino results in a very consistent buff throughout the entire duration, as opposed to a dramatic increase or I guess decrease in DPS over time. Before we talk about, of course, Arlecchino's kit and how front-loaded it is, so obviously Arlecchino is still going to have a dramatic decrease of damage over time, but that's just because of her actual kit. In actuality, the resulting buff is from both Mavuika and Yelan should be still a marginal increase, going from 40% to 50% over time, but of course keeping in mind that Yelan's buff only lasts for 15 seconds, whereas Mavuika's lasts for 20. Okay, although that being said, the last 5 seconds of Mavuika's buff is kind of meaningless. But as you can see from this footage, Yelan's Hydro app is actually enough to prevent an underlying Pyro aura, which is really, really good. Now, the rotation that I think makes the most sense here is basically Arlecchino's skill into Yelan's skill and burst if you need the healing, of course, Yelan's skill and burst, Mavuika's skill and burst, Arlecchino charge attack into Yelan's skill into Arlecchino popping off. That way we can maintain a Hydro aura before Arlecchino starts popping off, because if you don't have a Hydro aura when Arlecchino starts popping off, it's going to be really hard to get that Hydro aura back. That's where Yelan's skill comes back into the fold. Now, if you're against multiple enemies, you can of course always start with Yelan's skill into charge attack, but that's just basically how, Arlecchino's skill into charge attack, oh my god, that's just basically how Arlecchino works. The rest of the rotation is more or less the same. Of course, you just remove that Arlecchino charge attack at the later part. But this team does end up feeling really smooth to play, so I'm really actually liking it. So up next, I want to discuss real quick the overall damage output of this team and the difference between it and various other Arlecchino teams that I have enjoyed.
Laid bare, everlasting as the moon.
Based on what I'm seeing on the screen, it seems like Arlecchino's personal hits are a little bit weaker compared to other teams that I've played with. So what do I mean by that? I've seen Arlecchino do about 100k hits on this team as opposed to other teams where I think I've seen Arlecchino do around about 130k hits. So the teams that I'm kind of comparing with are Vape teams involving, let's say, Yelan, Sarah, Furina, or Yelan and Sarah, Yelan, or Yelan and Sucrose, and your Hydro character of choice. So I guess the big difference really is going to be the rest of the team's damage. So Yelan's off-field Hydro damage is usually a bit higher than Furina's, if not more or less the same. Furina, of course, also has slower Hydro app. I can't make it work with Furina instead of Yelan. So yeah, you're going to need at least enough Hydro aura from Yelan. The big difference is therefore the additional pyro damage that's coming, of course, from Mavuika's Ring of Death. And considering that Mavuika's skill doesn't have ICD, it's really cool that we can actually vape all of her hits, because with Yelan, we're actually able to maintain that underlying Hydro aura. And for me, that's some 41k vapes every 2 seconds, because I've actually put my Mavuika skill talent levels at level 8 for the time being. You know, she's still new, so sooner or later I'm going to double crown her and we'll figure it out again from there. Which also almost always crits for 6 seconds before Mavuika's Obsidian set buff expires. So yeah, there is that as well. Now I have tried using whatever golden Troupe pieces I have available, and it does result in more damage coming out of her skill. 46k vapes, for example, which could be an option over Obsidian, especially because, well, you also maintain whatever crit rate you have on your golden Troupe set, as opposed to Obsidian going up and then very much going down after 6 seconds. There's also, of course, the 260k vape coming from Mavuika's ult. That's when I'm using Obsidian, of course. So that is a lot of extra damage for this entire team's rotation. If you are, of course, using Golden Troupe, or at least in my experience, it drops down to 230k. So Golden Troupe might be better overall. I don't know. I mean, it's more or less the same, actually, now I think about it. But either way, I feel like this team might end up having just more DPS overall compared to older Arlecchino teams. Also, real quick, with regards to builds, nothing out of the ordinary for everyone's builds. Of course, the usual ways you build these folks is pretty much the way to go. 4-piece Whimsy or Glad for Father, Scroll on Yelan, Obsidian on Mavuika, or potentially Golden Troupe, and of course EOSF on Yelan.
Of the valley. Gotcha. Things are about to get dicey. Quietly. Let's ride. Light of the blazing sun. Everlasting as the moon. Transfixed. Letting brave names echo. Gotcha. Busted. Game's up. From Silva. Wrath from the sky!
At the end of the day, I'm just going to let the TCS and spreadsheet impact players figure out whether or not this is in fact Arlecchino's strongest team, or maybe it's not. I'll let them sort it out. But either way, it certainly feels like the Team DPS is higher than other teams that I've played with Father in the past. Now, there's also, of course, Overload teams with Ororon. I've tried them, and I don't like them, and the reason why I don't like them is mainly because of Ororon. I still find his kit way too confusing, personally, and I'm not too sure if I'm even maintaining Chevy's Res Shred, so I don't want to go too much into those kinds of teams, but they do exist, so that's another option if you want to play Father and Mavuika together, Overload with Ororon. I feel like, if anything, more of a Cloran team than an Arlecchino team. I feel like, anyway, but I don't know. I'll look at Cloran teams a little bit later on with Mavuika because, well, they're also feeling pretty good as well. But either way, let me know about all of this in the comments below. What kind of Father team are you finding success with Mavuika? Let me know in the comments. Otherwise, hope you guys enjoyed. If you like this video, hit that like button, subscribe for more Genshin Impact action, and until next time, I will see you guys later. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Next time.
Gotcha. Quietly now. Here comes the catch. Light of the blazing sun! That was a great fight.
Let's finish this next time.
No more mistakes. Bring it. Let the mountains be spoil. Let's get that. That was... Gotcha. Take it easy. Laid bare. Things are about to get dicey. Wrath from the sky! Bring it! Hear the echoes of the valley! Witness my wrath!